All right, Top Billin. This one is for real football heads only. None of this fanboy cheerleader type stuff. This is right up my alley. This has been going on for nearly a decade now between two of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis. Revis recently sparked back up the beef, talking about Richard Sherman here in a playoff game, which prompted a response from Sherman. But I'm going to go into this, and I'm also going to have a film study on the back end of this explaining Richard Sherman's duty in his defense. But you got Darrelle Revis over here saying, fear of getting beat in man-to-man coverage. Come on, man. Why he had to say it like that? Why he make it sound like it was a disease or something like that? What is that, like manphobia or something like that? Manphobia, right? He says every snap, every play, the fact that he doesn't travel as a cornerback is lame. Accept the – well, hold on. Come on, fam. You know, it's accept the challenge, Revis. I'm sorry. That's the journalist in me, Darrelle. I can't let you get away with that one. Accept the challenge as the best and shut down Adams the entire game. Do it for the game of football. Stop hiding a cover 3 zone. So he's saying this dude has manphobia and he's hiding behind a cover 3 zone calling himself great. Man, listen, there's a lot of truth to what Revis is talking about right here if you understand the nuances of football, right? That's why I can't rock with Pro Football Focus and these stuff that's geared towards nerds. Like, there's a certain thing in football called scheme. You can't compare players who play in different schemes because their task of difficulty is not the same, right? You got to go by the competition and schedule and what you do. That's how you compare players, right? And not every player plays in the same type of condition. So it's hard to compare players like that, right? As a matter of fact, look at my man Revis right here. All right, first of all, this is one of the hardest graphics I've ever seen in my life. This is hard. This is 3 of the top 5 receivers of all time, perhaps, right? It is unbelievable to think that this dude traveled with these guys over a 9-game stretch and held them to the type of numbers that he did, right? You got T.O., Randy Moss, and Megatron, Calvin Johnson. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Check this out. Against Terrell Owens in 3 games, T.O. had 19 targets, had 8 receptions for only 46 yards, and Darrelle got a pick off of him. He did not have a touchdown. The passer rating allowed against Terrell Owens was 27.7. You know what that does to an offense, right? It's one thing not to be able to throw the ball over a certain part of the field. It's another thing to not be able to get the ball down in and down out to your best player. Same thing with Randy Moss. 19 targets, 9 receptions, only 88 yards. Moss had a couple of touchdowns. Revis had a pick. 74 rating allowed. Megatron Calvin Johnson, 65 passer rating allowed, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 9 targets, only 4 receptions. 9 games, traveling with these guys, snap in, snap out. Wherever they go, whether it be in a slot, is one thing, right? You can get really comfortable as a football player playing on one side of the field, and you go to the other side of the field. Sometimes it can be almost like if you were to go to Europe or wherever where you had to have the steering wheel on the right side of the car. That's how it is. That's what football is, man. You switch over like that, it could be something totally different for you, right? So he has to do that, go to both sides, and he would travel in the slot with the best player, all Hall of Famers, right? That's not difficult. That is extremely difficult. Now, you got to give Richard Sherman his props. I love Richard Sherman, man. He is the master of that scheme that they have. As a matter of fact, let's check out his clap back. All right, keep in mind, this has been going on for the better part of a decade, and it's beef. It is flat-out beef. Obviously, it's beef on the field, so folks getting in their feelings. Remember, facts over feelings. Always remember that. Facts over feelings. So these guys feel like they're the best. They should feel like they're the best. If you don't feel like you're the best out there and whatever you do, then to me, you have self-esteem issues. I always feel like I'm the best no matter what I'm doing. So Richard Sherman goes to say, I would go in on this has-been, but I have a Super Bowl to prepare for. Enjoy the view from the couch. Your 9th year looked a lot different than this. Laugh my ass off. Now, that's a little out there for me right there because Darrelle Revis is retired. He's 34 years old. You can't play football forever. He had a great career. You can say that perhaps maybe one of the top 3 ever at the position, and he's arguably the best at the position. Well, I'm saying you got to give props to Charles Woodson and Deion Sanders and some of the guys that came before, Lester Hayes and some of the guys that came before them. So, but my point with this is Richard Sherman didn't say anything about playing in the cover 3 zone or didn't really say anything about matching up man-to-man on the best team's receiver game in and game out. He kind of went for the personal retort. But let's go ahead and check out what Richard Sherman does here in this cover 3 scheme that makes Darrelle Revis pissed off. All right, so here are the basics of a cover 3 scheme, right? So 3 deep shell, you're going to have the field broken up into a third. Going to have your outside corners and then your free safety each get a third of the field, and they work vertically. So they'll work all the way down the field in that zone. So it's pretty much you can find them playing man coverage in a zone confinement, right? So they'll take anything vertical, but they'll take shorter routes and everything, anything that goes into the direction of that zone. If you're smart, though, that zone can extend a little bit, right, where you can get towards more of the middle of the field, like we'll see from Richard Sherman here. He's great at that. He understands route concepts. He understands exactly where the splits of the receivers are and where they may be going. So you have to give him credit for that and for his ball skills and all of that, right? But he is playing a third of the field, and he can only play who's across from him. As we see right here in this particular, he's going against Davante Adams, but they can put Davante Adams anywhere and he wouldn't even see him. But they're working vertical, right? First of all, it's thrown into a single high safety, which is bad on Aaron Rodgers' part. So that could have been picked off from the safety, but Richard Sherman got it to end the game there. All right, so here's something that you got to realize, that if we see this third of the field, that means he doesn't go with deep in-breaking routes, whether it be a drive route like on the bottom here, a deep dig, or an over route at the top. He's not going to travel over there because he has a certain zone that he's working. So that's why a guy like Darrelle Revis would get mad and say, how can you say that this guy is better than me when I have to work those routes because I'm defending a man and not a zone. So being able to take Randy Moss on a deep over route, you know how difficult that would be, the type of foot speed that a guy like Calvin Johnson would have running some of these in-breaking routes. You have to give Darrelle Revis the credit for that, and the fact that he would do this snap in and snap out no matter where these guys went. That's the issue right there. So every snap he had a difficult assignment, whereas Richard Sherman, they could put the third or fourth best receiver across from him in his zone, and then he gets a degree of difficulty that isn't as dope as what Darrelle Revis would see on a snap in and snap out basis. All right, so pay attention to this, right? You see the outside technique by Sherman down here at the bottom, way off man coverage because he's working that zone. Adams is pushing vertically, but Sherman continues to push his vertical in his zone, right? So he's pushing vertical in his zone. They bend the post in right into the single high safety. I'm not sure what Aaron Rodgers is doing with that. He definitely should know better than that. He's one of the greatest of all time. This allows Sherman to stay on top of this route because he's working that zone. But you still have to be smart and know when to get out of that zone as he is. Who's to say that Darrelle Revis may struggle in a scheme like this, right? It's still a football scheme, so that doesn't mean you're going to be great at it. If that were the case, everybody would be Richard Sherman. He stands out from everyone else because he's smart and understands football concepts, and he studies and everything like that. So that makes him good within this zone, this playing man within a zone confinement. All right, so this had to have Darrelle Revis sitting up in his office straight seething, right? Horrible technique in close quarters coverage. No hands-on man by Richard Sherman, getting beat over the top. Safety couldn't get there. So I know Revis jumped out of his seat and was extremely angry, but extremely happy as well. All right, so we see right here he gets spun like a dreidel. No hands-on man. Not working with the press. Would have continued vertical. So imagine if this route actually would have been an in-breaking route. It wouldn't have been up on him, right? The safety, Jimmy Ward, would have rotated down and maybe took that responsibility. You got the safety rotating over the top. So that just shows you the limitations of what he's actually doing. But it does go vertical, and he's flat out smoked, right? But it's just one play, man. Come on, you guys got to quit this. All right, real quick about Darrelle Revis. You see him at the bottom of the screen here. Even thinking about him going against all those Hall of Famers, there were guys in the league like Dez Bryant, right, that may not have been Hall of Famers, but they played at a Hall of Fame level for a short period of time, right? And he would follow him all over the field, right? And he would let him know about it. They had some great battles, and people like Brandon Marshall and Chad Johnson. He would follow these guys. Look at him. He was at the right side. Now he's on the left side up here at the top, right, getting an interception, going against. He followed him all around the field, so I had to roll with my man Darrelle Revis. He's better than Richard Sherman in my opinion, just because of the strength of schedule as far as him being able to face the top guy on a snap in and snap out basis. There were times where Darrelle Revis played on teams, they played zone. Even in the New York Jets, they would play zone. I would see him in cover 3, but the majority of the time he was matched up with the team's best receiver. And there have been times where we've seen Richard Sherman play man-to-man in certain instances, but most of the time he's been a left corner in a cover 3 scheme. He's the absolute truth. Darrelle Revis is the absolute truth, and I love football discussions like this. So let me know down in the comment section who you would take, all right? With that being said, it's your boy Murf, the Underground King, top billing sports, saying I am out. Peace.
What more can I say?
Top billing.